All right, John. So you've been here in St. Louis for a few years, but you didn't grow up here. You visited as a kid. Where did you actually grow up at?
Well, first I must make a disclaimer: the gummies have kicked in, so there's that. It was a long, dark, stormy night. Suddenly, a shot rang out, and I was born somewhere in North Carolina. I don't know where. I was adopted. I don't know where I was adopted out of. I don't really have a birth certificate, so to speak. Yeehaw! But I was adopted in 1956, and my dad was in the Marine Corps, a fighter pilot for the Marines, and he was stationed at Cherry Point, and so we lived in New Bern, North Carolina, which at the time was super small, you know. And when he got out of the Marines, when he retired after 23 years, I think, we relocated to my mom's hometown of Pensacola, Florida.
Oh.
And I was like 7 when that happened. And that's where I went through the great Florida public education system, you know,
Yeah.
and started playing baseball and all that. And so that's kind of where I was raised. And that's also where I started discovering music. My mom had me take piano lessons from the time I was 7 till, I don't know, 12, 13. I didn't learn it a lick. I can't play a lick on piano. It took it for 6, 7 years. And
Did that time teach you like basic chords and stuff that you
No.
then
no,
No?
nothing.
Nothing.
Nothing. The piano teacher, he used to work out in Hollywood, and he was back in Pensacola taking care of his mom. And so he had all this furniture throughout his house that was from movie sets. And so instead of teaching me anything on piano, he was telling me about the furniture from movie sets all the time.
Right.
For years. And that furniture's made out of balsa wood. So these huge pieces of furniture
Like
that
prop
just
furniture.
yeah.
Yeah.
That look immovable and stuff like that. You can pick them up with
Don't
one
sit on
hand.
it.
Yeah. So that's why I didn't learn anything. And at least that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. It's mainly because the music that piano teachers wanted to teach me, you know, which is the proper way to learn with some theory and how to read and all these exercises and getting into classical and stuff like that was all cool and all that. But the problem is I didn't want to learn how to play Mozart or Beethoven's Moonlight Sonata. I wanted to learn how to play Great Balls of Fire by Jerry Lee Lewis. Well, they weren't teaching that.
Right.
So I got bored, lost interest, kept playing baseball. And
Well, you kept playing baseball all through high school and into some college, didn't you?
yeah. Went to high school, to Scambia High School, which had the school in a time from 70 to 74 had a troubled history of, desegregation hit around 1970 in Pensacola. So I was going to a high school, the Escambia High School Rebels was the school's team. The Confederate flag was the school's flag. Dixie was the school's song, fight song. So then all of a sudden, segregation was gone and it was desegregated, and they bussed a bunch of kids in from Pensacola High School, and they didn't really appreciate all them references to the Confederacy and stuff like that. So, and that was at the time of my great awakening in around 1970 when all of a sudden I realized, I just discovered this thing called slavery in a history book. What was that about? And that's when I realized, oh man, there's a lot of bullshit involved in this country. And, I call that my great awakening. I quit going to church. I quit believing in Dixie and the myth of the grand old South and all that sort of stuff. I woke up. Not trying to be political. And a couple years after that, it was on a Saturday morning. It was 11 o'clock in the morning. I was driving my mom's old station wagon. I was going to the local mall. And malls were brand new back in those days. So there was a record store in this mall. A corporate record store, I don't know what it was. But anyway, I was going to get a new Rolling Stones album or something like that. Well, I was listening to the radio station WBSR, and all of a sudden they started playing this song by B.B. King off his new album called To Know You Is to Love You. And it's a song written by Stevie Wonder, and B.B. was covering it, and they played the whole song. And it had this great guitar break in it, where he breaks it down from the full band and orchestra. It breaks all the way down to where it's just BB and the drummer, and then finally just BB singing that string, man. And I pulled my mom's car over. On the left side was the Bank of West Florida, and on the right side was a pool hall on Golden Crown Recreation Center. And it was 11 o'clock on Saturday morning, and my mind had just been blown. That was the first time I'd heard B.B. King. And I'd heard the name before because I was a Beatles fan and read an interview in Rolling Stone with John Lennon where he said he just wished he could play like B.B. King. And then all of a sudden I hear my first B.B. King, and I didn't go get the Rolling Stones album. I went and got that album. I still have it in the back room. It is still one of my favorite B.B. King albums. That is still one of my favorite B.B. King guitar solos. And I was playing guitar at that time. But I was doing Beatles and Rolling Stone stuff and all that. And blues records in Pensacola, Florida were not readily available or easy to find. And well, that record changed the way I played from playing like Rolling Stones and Beatles songs and stuff, and got me into, oh man, I want to check this out. And so I started going to like Zayre's and Kmart and their cutout record bins, and I found records like an album called Hideaway and Dance Away with Freddie King, nice. Which was half instrumentals and half vocals, like Tore Down and
right.
Things like that, and Hideaway and The Stumble. And I found Albert King's, it was Going to California is the cutout record release, which was the Big Blues album that Albert King had released on Bobbin, I think. I'm not too sure. They'd been King Records, but I think it was. Anyway. So that had things, just some great Albert King stuff on it from his first album recording and release. And it was really cool. You could tell Albert played differently than BB and Freddie.
Right.
And So I became I really got into those guys. And I like that stuff. And I still like the Stones and, Beatles and Jeff Beck and all that stuff. But this blues thing had really got my interest.